we're probably are live now. So, Andrew, what's today's topic? What are we gonna center our conversation about?
I think we were going to center our conversation around some of our favorite quotes. Um,
Okay,
and do you want me to start off with the one that I'm focusing on this week, or do
go,
you guys want
go ahead. Let's do quotes, famous quotes, and why we like them and why we don't like them if we happen not to like them. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I guess my quote of the week as I turn off the volume on, on watching myself live here on Facebook was Brad's comment at QB Connect. His quote: "Don't mistake kindness for weakness." Um, and this is a particularly relevant quote for me this week because I called an all hands meeting for my staff on Monday morning because um, my approach has been very much to try and create this culture where it's mistakes are encouraged, and I want people to try things and be not afraid to fail. So I've been really sort of lenient, particularly compared to the way things were before, which was that traditional classic accounting firm, very much a dictatorship. You know, pointing out the people who were making their mistakes, chastising them for making mistakes. But I've sort of realized now that you've got to walk that fine balance between having that laid back atmosphere where culture is very important and having that firm approach on the bottom line. And so I'm starting Monday morning. I've got to lay down the line on a couple of key points with my team because they're not executing the way I'm expecting them to, and the way that we need to. And so I've got to show them, like, look, I've been really lenient for the last 2 years. I've given you a lot of flexibility. Don't mistake that kindness for weakness. I still have very high expectations for you, and if you're not delivering on those expectations, there's going to be repercussions. And so I think that's a quote that's really resonating with me right now. I'm trying to think through my process and how I'm going to approach this on Monday. I'd love to hear your feedback on when you guys have encountered similar situations and how you've dealt with it.
But if you want, can I ask you a follow-up question on that, just so we
Sure.
can? Okay, so maybe tell me some examples on your leadership style. Why you think your leadership style is kindness? Because I think you're relating to that because you feel that you've been kind, and the kindness either hasn't exerted enough discipline or inspired balance in the difference between being lenient and also being strict about results. So what is it about your style, your leadership style, that you are labeling as kind? So I'd like, just give me some examples so we can relate to how you're feeling.
Yeah, well, I guess a big part of why I consider it kindness, like there's a whole collaborative leadership approach, which I'll digress on now. But the kindness aspect, I would say, is I've been very lenient on non-billable time. I've been encouraging and pushing more free time for training and development. I've been trying to encourage these people, like I say, to feel like they can make mistakes and that they won't be chastised or, alienated because of their mistakes, and try to give people a lot of freedom. We have very flexible work from home policies, which I think are important in a modern age. I mean, Mike, you're obviously a big proponent of this. And I think those are important. But then we're starting to get now people who are taking advantage of those work from home policies and not being reachable or accessible while they're at home, coming into the office. And then when they're in the office, they're being really lackadaisical, and then coming in late, leaving early, and not showing that level of commitment that I expect from team members, and coming in at even senior team levels, and that sort of then creates this whole well, if he can do it, I can do it sort of mentality,
Right.
And it just starts to become this cancer, this energy that is taking away from the intent of trying to create this flexibility and empowerment. Like a big part of what I've been trying to do is empower my team to have the freedom and the flexibility to make decisions and let them govern themselves, which I think is a really important step. But then ultimately, we've got a few bad apples that will take advantage of that. And I think I'm at the point now, and I think one of my problems was there was a couple points where it was building up, and I sat down and I had individual conversations with one particular person who was not delivering. And instead of, stepping up, I almost got the inverse reaction. They didn't step up. If anything, they became more lackadaisical. And it was funny because when we sat them down and I said, look, we can monitor everything through our systems, right? Like we've got pretty technical systems. I can see when you check in a file, when you check out a file, I can see what you're working on. And so I can see, the hours you're putting in. And the reaction to that was, oh, well, I could just check out a file and not work on it for 2 hours and then check it in. I'm like, yeah, we run terminal services. I can monitor your entire session. Like that's not really the response I was looking for, and it was just, it was disappointing when I was, trying to give these guys the freedom and the empowerment to then feel like I was being taken advantage of for giving them that freedom and empowerment.
Yeah, Andrew, I think I can totally relate. My team is actually my team when and I've only had a few. I call them come to Jesus conversations, right? And because of the kind nature, the amount of second, third chances I give, and frankly, because I assume that if you give people responsibility and freedom, that most people will own up to that challenge and do their best. And I always remind my team, I'm not expecting perfection. I am expecting you to believe and give your best. And if you can sit here and say you tried and you did do that, I'll be really satisfied. And I can tell when you give your best. But if you didn't completely show up, and you basically gave it half-hearted, with the amount of flexibility, freedom that I've given you, then you kind of didn't hold up to your end of the bargain. And so I think some of my team members are actually surprised when I get upset about specific things. And usually it's around core values, right? Going against something very at the core of my DNA. One example would be never throw somebody else under the bus. Don't ever throw somebody else on the bus, especially if you're on at a senior level or you've been around the company for a while. You should know better, right? And so I'll remind people that if you're going to come to me with a complaint, first think through where in the situation. Yeah, think of a solution and think about where in the situation you could have done better, right? Where did you? What part of the situation did you not own? That contributed to the problem. And so, but I think the route that I've learned kind of through some time now is I actually don't believe most people can operate without some levels of definition or some levels of description. And since culture at its DNA is formed by a set of behaviors or defined by a set of behaviors, what I'm kind of procrastinatingly working on right now is that those set of behaviors. What are the kind of on average, every organization has about 20 to 25 of these. What are the core set of behaviors that actually make you successful in your organization? So what do those look like, and how do those contribute or tie directly to the core values or DNA that you're trying to live out in your organization?
Right. And to add to that, Andrew, if you're allowed to give me, I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice, if you don't mind.
Unsolicited.
Unsolicited. So one of the things I'll tell you is if I was coaching you through this thing, and again, I'm not an expert coach, but usually what a coach does is just tries to see everything in a very low, sort of high level and just kind of pinpoint the things that I would suggest you look at. I think that just bringing out the fact that you can monitor what somebody does is the wrong approach.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So thank you, Michael, for agreeing. So this is why I say it, because the premise is I can monitor what you do, or I can watch you work, or whether you can or not, but just using it means that you're trying to tally up people's performance based on individual tasks, right?
Mhm.
And to go back to what Michael was saying, I think people need sort of an overarching, inspiring goal, kind of purpose to work by, which it would be like, what would my purpose statement push me to do when I don't have the answer, when Andrew's not available, when whoever my direct contact is that I'm supposed to get the answer from, who's a very busy person and gets frustrated when I have to call him 10 times a day. So number one, you may want to look into what is that overarching purpose and overarching principle that your company has that becomes sort of that guidance, that what would Jesus do? Like to say, Michael was saying, come to Jesus.
Yeah.
That what would Jesus do? So that's one thing. And two, I think it would be much more effective to talk about the results that you want to get rather than the
behavior I'm not happy with.
The minutiae. And even Michael brought a point, and Michael, I will disagree with you on this. And I used to work for I worked for many big organizations, and the management style was, well, you have to fix behavior. So you have to train for behaviors. And when you work with line level employees, like brand new people that work in a retail store, yes, it's all about behaviors. You actually want to coach people through specific words and for specific things they're going to say. But once the employees, your team members, become knowledge workers, it's much harder to shape behaviors, and it's going to be much easier if you can shape their heart. And I know that's a tough thing, and it's kind of like a sort of like a wishy-washy thing, but you almost have to, number one, make sure that if there is a bad apple in there that kind of drags everybody down, you got to get rid of that person.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, totally.
That negative energy, as you said, X person does it, X person does it. So you have to be tough in this case, and you have to be kind to the rest of the people by getting rid of the bad one. So going back to your quote, right? But I think that just your approach, and this may not have been the reality, but just be the way you explained it. I think your approach is a little bit too sort of individual task focus, and much less horizon focus. So and I'll tell you one thing. Everybody in my team makes mistakes, including me. But I've made it a point to find how the mistake comes back to me as the leader.
Right.
I make it a point to figure out what I did wrong. Every time I have an issue with a customer, even if the customer is wrong, I go back and figure out what did I do as a leader, what didn't I do as a leader to prevent this problem, or what could I have done to prevent this problem. And maybe the problem is I took a client that wasn't the right fit in the first place. And Andrew, maybe you took an employee that wasn't the right fit in the first place. I always go back and try to take responsibility for everything that happens.
Yeah.
There's a switch that I make in my head so I can have a different way of looking at the problem. So Andrew, that's just a little bit of unsolicited advice. And Andrew,
I think that's great advice.
Andrew
I appreciate it.
I mean, Matthew just jumped in and he's got his finger up.
So
he's either checking the weather or he wants to say something.
Teacher, I might.
My turn. No, I was listening to what you're saying, and Andrew, if I had to guess and read your mind of what you were thinking about from your perspective when you went about it that way, I would guess, knowing your lightheartedness, that your desire was actually trying to, in a sense, invoke them to find a way within themselves. Like, look, we've got the ability to see this, guys. We just want you to do the things that you want to do, and because you don't want to look at it, right? No. And I think that, like, the way the message was intended was pure. The challenge is that the people that hear it, they don't hear it that way necessarily. Right.
So one of the things I should interrupt, because I should clarify one point. I never actually told them, we can monitor every minute of everything. That was something more I thought internally. When I sat down and talked with the individual, we basically went through like, look, these are the hours you've come in. These are the hours you've signed out. These are the times we can see that you're working in the system. We're not satisfied with the number of hours that you're putting in. So it was a specific behavior that we were trying to address, which was basically you're not putting in the level of commitment that we're expecting from you. I didn't, even though I knew damn well that I could monitor this entire session, I didn't actually say that. I was just literally like dumbfounded that was his response. I was like, that's not I was expecting I'm so sorry, let me get my butt in gear. So I definitely, and to Hector's point, I got to look at what did I do wrong in this situation. That employee's response was so off point with the way I would have expected or the way I would have responded to that.
And Andrew, I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you think, I guarantee you. Even if you didn't say it, the whole thing about, hey guys, I can monitor what you're doing. If you were thinking it,
it came out.
Whatever you said, even though if it's different words, it came out through the intention. Because don't forget that whatever's in the back of your head and your subconscious can affect what you're saying. So Matthew, you came in a bit late. What we were trying to do is talk about famous quotes and then kind of digress from there, which actually kind of happened with Andrew, which is a great conversation. So Matthew, can you think of a famous quote that you like, and maybe we'll dissect it and talk about it?
I'm going to refill while he does that.
Wow.
I got one ready, Matthew, if you need time.
Go, please, because I need to get a context of it. I'm not.
So I get, one of the most famous quotes in history. Love your neighbor as yourself. A well-known person named Jesus said that. I told Hector and Andrew that all my quotes are going to come from the Bible because that's just like what is readily available. Hector loves that. So love your neighbor yourself. But this is the way it's relevant in Reconciled in my business is I think about the ways in which I would want to be treated if I was working for Michael Lee as my boss, right? How would I want to be treated? How would I hope that Michael Lee would treat me? What freedoms would I hope he would give me in a virtual firm, in a remote firm, in an accounting firm? And what second, third, fourth chances would he give me? And what kind of conversations and openness could I have? And so one of the things I tell all of my employees is, for most of us, we spend 40 plus 50 hours a week at our jobs working with our peers. And so I would expect and would hope that any topic you want to talk about at work that people say don't talk about, I want you to feel free to talk about at work, because this is the place you're spending most of your time. So the things that are on your heart, whether it's about your kids, about your family, about your faith, about politics, I want you to feel free to be able to talk about those things. And I want to create a safe environment for you to be able to talk about things and not ever feel like HR or your boss or Michael is going to come. And so I try to lead in those conversations, right? I talk openly about my own faith, how it shapes my life and my business and my values. I talk about my political positions and how it shapes my beliefs and my values. I talk about friends that I have or my family. So I want the company I want people to feel comfortable bringing their values and sharing those with each other and having civil and actually respectful dialogue so that we grow and challenge one another instead of it being this shallow place where we don't really form deep relationship. Right. And so that's, I think the love your neighbor as yourself is kind of, for me, saying, hey, I want to be at a work environment where I can feel safe to talk about who I really am and not hide it and not just be the professional at work. That's just like, kind of why I live that out. But what do you guys think about that quote?
Well, I actually have a question for you. I just, out of curiosity, I wonder how many of your staff have similar values to you? Do you naturally congregate with people of similar values, or did you end up with a team with, varied backgrounds?
Oh yeah, I would say my team's got a wide variety of backgrounds. I'm actually in Vermont, which is the least religious state in the country, and I grew up in Arizona, which is completely opposite side of the political spectrum than Vermont. Although I would consider myself fairly moderate compared to Arizona. Arizona. So, so I end up pulling in a bunch of different people, and I think one of the values I have is I love diversity, right? Mm-hmm. I love diversity, and I don't mind having close friendships with people who completely disagree with me on core topics.
In fact, there's nothing better when you can have someone you can have that philosophical debate and still walk away with completely different viewpoints, willing and comfortable to discuss them or challenge each other, but still walk away respecting each other.
Oh, totally.
Sometimes you even have two different conversations at the same time and about the
the same thing. Yeah,
Matthew and I were having a 2-hour chat about the differences between agnostic and atheism, but mixed in there was a whole bunch of like personal life experiences and near-death experiences and family and stuff. It was all mixed in. It was actually a pretty interesting conversation. So
I got you.
Let me ask you. So let's talk about political correctness, because it looks like Michael is kind of saying that there's no such thing as political correctness, and it's okay to talk about things that could even, I guess, not necessarily offend someone else, but talk about things that would put someone on the edge in the argument end, right? Because I tend to be tolerant. I actually tend to be tolerant, but the minute somebody just like sort of uses the political, what do you call it? The bullet points, the talking points, I just go ballistic, just because I like when people say, this is what I believe in, this is what it is. But when people use the bullet points or the talking points that are just political BS, that just sets me off. So I try to be careful about those topics, just because I know that I'm prone to just jump and say that. And I recently learned in my office that there were some people that didn't believe what I believe. It was kind of interesting. And even my partners disagree with me on politics as well. So my partners, my brothers, I mean, these are the guys that I can fire everyone but them, if I was going to. So I think the challenge is being able to make a point without disproving somebody, or without disproving somebody else's thought process, or without insulting the other person. I think that's hard, because sometimes we may do that unconscious, I think.
Yeah. I think you do have to get to a place as a leader where you've earned the trust and respect of your employees and your team, right? Where they can tell and believe that you're the kind that this is a core value of yours, right? And so of course, I don't jump right in on the first day and start saying, "Hey, what are your thoughts about the upcoming midterms or whatever?" But I think I can take two approaches. Is one, spend time getting to know people, getting to really genuinely, wanting to learn more about them, and people can tell whether you genuinely want to know or not. And that begins to build trust. But then the secondly is, don't take yourself seriously, right? So even when I enter into those conversations, is to really not take myself seriously and go, hey, I'm entering this conversation because I actually want to hear your opinion. And I probably know it's going to be different, but I want to learn. I want to know, and I want to grow. And I only grow by hearing other people's opinions and by being challenged about mine and my beliefs, right? And so I think that's an approach to take that helps tie down any tension that might build up. But it's good that, Hector, that you know that about yourself, because that helps you.
So you have to be open to be wrong, right?
Yeah.
So it's been 25 minutes and we've done 2 quotes.
Okay.
So Matthew, so first of all, this proves that we all have our own individual friends in our regular lives, but when it comes down to this, we're so excited to talk about so many things that we just go off tangents, I guess. So Matthew, you got a quote for us?
I do. I will probably mess this up just a bit, and I can't necessarily give the exact quote to it, but you may have all of the knowledge and experience in the world, but what is it worth without the wisdom to know what to do with it?
Okay. What do you like about that, Matthew?
It comes from Ramtha, and I can't go any deeper than that. It's something that came across in my lifetime, and it's something I've always kind of held as internally as a thought. To me, it talks about the idea that it's not good enough. We can experience things, right? If the ultimate goal, or if you were to put them on a value scale, wisdom to me is at the highest level of it all. There's knowledge, experience, wisdom. So you can have knowledge on a subject. You can read books. You can do whatever to learn about it. You can experience things in life. So I went to school. Great. I got my degree. And while getting my degree, I worked in a business. It still doesn't mean that I actually had the wisdom that was necessary to make proper decisions. And I can truly tell you that some of the best knowledge I've ever gained was from the wisdom of others who shared it with me.
Very true. Tiffany, welcome, by the way. Thank you for fixing our sausage party situation.
That's what I was thinking.
So that's a great example, Hector, of a term I wouldn't use at work, but that's a great example of a term
May or may not be correct.
This is a safe environment. So Tiffany, let's give you the honors. What do you think about what Matthew said?
I was kind of half in, half out with that. What he was going on about. Sorry.
Okay. Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting quote. It's one I actually hadn't heard before, but I think you're absolutely right that I guess there's that concept of extrinsic versus intrinsic knowledge. So the things that you've learned through your own experiences versus those that you've gained from others. And I think that that's a whole part of why I'm involved in this community, is because the knowledge and the experience that I can gain from other people, like the wisdom you guys shared with me just on better ways that I can handle this Monday morning all hands meeting. So I think that's the knowledge that we can gain from other people and the wisdom of how to use it is definitely something that we can all benefit from. So I think it's an insightful quote. I wasn't all that familiar with it, but I like it.
One of the people I love to listen to and read is Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm sure some folks on the other side of my political spectrum don't like him too much for his ways that he talks about politics, but he's a super smart guy. And he talks often about how the more he learns, because he's some people would deem him as just one of the smartest guys out there, just an astrophysicist. It's written a couple books. He's just really well known in the media in the U.S. And one of the things that he says, and I'm sure he's quoted this from someone else, is the more I learn, the more I realize how ignorant I am. And I think that anyone that's sharing knowledge, like Matthew says, anyone that's learning and then sharing it is doing it because in the pursuit of learning new things, you have to teach what you just learned in order to check it off your box. Because if you're learning something that you can't use, it's worthless, correct? Mm-hmm. So if you have a piece of information, it's like having a piece of gossip that you can't tell anyone, right? So it's like learning something that you can't apply, it's almost useless. But if you can teach it to someone else that can apply it, then it becomes valuable. I use this analogy when I teach. I try to teach sort of efficiency versus effectiveness is something that's just very dear to me because it's something that has changed the way I think. So I think of money as completely worth it until you spend it. If you think about it, that's absolutely true, right? Money has absolutely no value until you spend it. And I think the same thing happens to knowledge. Until you share it or until somebody else knows that you knows it, the knowledge is worthless. So if it's just in a selfish pursuit to brag about what you know, or to be known as a person that knows it, you have to at least share it in that selfish pursuit, which becomes the selfless pursuit of helping others learn with you. And that's something that it's been shaping the way I think and I approach things. And this is why I believe that some of these conversations are more valuable in a public manner than in a private manner, which is the reason why we're having it. Because you never know who can use any of the stuff that we're discussing, which may be trivial to any of us. So that's my 2 cents. So Michael, how about you?
Yeah.
I thought we were just bored. That's what we're doing this Friday.
It's an excuse to drink. It's just an excuse to drink.
I want to add on to what you were just saying, Hector, because I think I've probably said this to each of you individually at one point or time, which is we live in this amazing time upon which we can connect to people across vast distances, right? I mean, look where each of us are at right now. That's pretty powerful, but there's something even more powerful about this current time. We're willing to share our experiences. We're willing to talk about them. And I am proud to be part of this technology bubble or whatever this will be, that we are actually contributing and collaborating, because ever since a young age, I've always taken the time to listen to my elders and listen and learn from them. Truly have done that for some reason. And now I have this new tribe or pack, as it's been deemed, that we're doing exactly that. And Hector, you nailed it. We're having a conversation and we're having fun and we're enjoying it. That's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, honestly, this right now, this is success. It's having a good time with like-minded people that we can enjoy ourselves and find a good reason to go back to work and do it again. And hopefully these conversations empower other people to do something. Because I can tell you, a year plus ago, that was me. I was watching all these people.
By the way, Andrew just turned off his webcam because he's crying. So he's excited about what you're saying. Sorry, Matthew.
It's so deep.
Going back to deep. So I just really it's a unique time. It really is. It really is. And I think it's awesome. Tiffany, save me.
So Tiffany, how about you? You have anything to comment, or maybe a quote that you like that you want to share with us?
The quote that I just has resonated with me is, you don't need to blow out somebody else's candle in order for yours to burn brighter.
Mm-hmm. I like that one.
Yeah.
My dad used to frame it a little differently, but the same concept. You don't build yourself up by tearing other people down.
Yeah. There's no need for that, because all you're doing is just showing your own insecurities. So, yeah.
You know,
it comes to the difference between having an attitude or a mentality of abundance versus the mentality of scarcity.
Well, and of serving, right?
Right. I think serving is a whole nother layer, I would say, because I think your self-esteem has to sort of go up a notch for you to then deem yourself as a server. I think as serving it's a bit more complicated, I think, and maybe we can segue to that. But the mentality of abundance is that switch you make in your head where you don't think of anything as limited resources. You think of everything as unlimited resources. And sometimes there are things that are limited, like money is limited for most people. Oxygen is limited. Time is another philosophical one that we can discuss as a sideline.
Oh, you're not one of those people that's going to say, there is no tomorrow, there is
rude.
no yesterday, there's only the now.
Well, see the difference. See, time is the only thing that we know for sure we have a limit of, but we never know what that limit is. I mean, so if we can't measure,
right?
None of us can measure how much time we have left. So in essence, there's no limit to it. Like if you actually think of it in that way, time is actually unlimited until it ends. So or until you've been diagnosed with a terminal disease. But for the most
or
part,
until you talk to an actuarialist.
right, correct.
This is coming from the guy who obviously never sleeps because he's always up late on live streams and doing something, right?
Well, that's how I hack. That's how I hack time, right?
You're hacking life that way.
This is how I hack
You just
time.
don't sleep.
I don't know if any of you guys watch Seinfeld, but there was an episode where Kramer figured out how to hack life and get another 20 years of life by only sleeping like 20 minutes a day or something like that. It's pretty funny. Anyway, so it's, and I think it's not difficult, by the way. I think that whether you're rich or poor or whatever your monetary situation may be, you can have a mentality of abundance regardless of what you have. And you see this when you go to, I come from a country that has, a lot of marginal, people in the margins, poor people and that sort of thing. And you see the most humble poor people share, split what they have, share with others, that sort of thing. And once you see that, you notice that person doesn't have. So that person that has nothing does not have a mind of scarcity. So how do us in the first world, right, with all these resources, with all this money for the most part, I think if you're poor in the States, you're rich in Africa. You know what I mean? So it's all in your mind, I believe.
All relative.
All relative, and it's all in your mind. And if you think that you have little of, you're going to attract other people that think they have little of, and you're always going to deal with people that are very stingy about giving away anything, even their time or their knowledge, whatever happens to be. And if you hang out with other people that don't think that way, that whether it's money or time or attention or knowledge, you get enriched from it. So, by the way, we have a new person I haven't met. Sean, how you doing, my friend?
You're on mute.
You're mute, but you're a good mime, though.
He's Canadian. Let's give him a little time.
Oh, Michael.
Michael.
Hey, I had to throw in a little bit of device in it. There's so much unity going on tonight.
That's right. That's right. Sean, give me a 30-second elevator pitch.
He's still on mute. He doesn't know it.
He's gonna have to sign language it all.
Sean, you make a good mime, though.
I'll introduce Sean. Sean
speak.
is from Ottawa. He lives in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And he runs Blueprint Accounting. And he's a fun guy.
Isn't he supposed to be like super cloud-based? Shouldn't he know how to work this thing?
Yeah, you think so. You think so.
You all have a bad day,
So, Sean, if you've got Zoom in the large window, minimize the screen, and in the bottom is the mute button.
Clearly, the blueprint includes mute.
I unmuted. I had to force unmute you from my side.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, see?
Time for another refill.
Okay. It didn't make any sense.
No, you don't know sign language? What's up, man? I mean, like, you could have just been like busting that out.
So, Sean, what's your favorite quote from? Yeah, guys, mute yourself. So, what's your favorite quote? Any quote that you like that inspires you, and why?
Yeah, I think you guys are on a roll. I heard one recently I've never heard, and I think it's very simple, and it's use things, not people. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I think it's kind of in line with what everyone's talking about tonight, like about collaboration and being friendly and being humble and being nice and being forthcoming and helpful to others. And I don't know if that has any play with the group tonight, but I kind of like that quote. I've never heard it before, and I heard it this week for the first time.
Talking about using things, Andrew's been using the bathroom quite a bit. What's going on, man?
Can we
mute?
I'm getting mute
refills.
Andrew,
you got a prostate problem.
You gotta mute yourself.
I haven't used the bathroom yet.
You gotta mute yourself. Andrew, mute yourself because we can hear your ice machine. We can hear your toilet flush. I mean, come on, man.
So use things.
Microphone.
Use things, not
people. I like that.
Use things, not people, which means that people are there to collaborate, and things are there to be exploited, but you don't exploit people. I love that.
Yeah.
I think Beth Meltzer just joined, and she's got a headache. I think she's got a headache, or she's trying to cover her forehead.
No, she's talking telepathically.
We can't hear you yet. You got to unmute her.
She's muted, so she's speaking to us.
Oh, you're speaking to her mouth.
Okay,
I have like a mouth guard in.
Oh God. Okay, Beth, how are you? Famous quote that you like and inspires you, and why?
Oh my God.
This is on
excellent,
Facebook Live.
Be
This is
excellent to
Facebook
each
Live.
other and party on, dudes. Is that what you want from me tonight?
Party on.
Amazing.
Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted.
Did you join to be an ice in the a fly in the wall, or did you join because you got something exciting to say?
Oh, Ted's
I
Excellent
haven't-
Adventure.
I haven't-
Party on, dudes. That's great.
I haven't.
Neo! Hey, girl.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
muted.
so happy she just got on this call.
He's like, take the attention away from me.
Okay, hang on a second. Hang on a second.
Oh.
Okay, hey.
Hang on a second. This is my Zoom call, so I can mute anybody. I have the
Yes.
power to mute everybody. So let me set the rules.
Yes.
We have 8 people now, so someone needs to like pass the baton as we go. So if I'll do that for the time being, just so this doesn't become a mess. So Beth, can you clarify what was your quote again?
Oh, it's from Wayne's World. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. Right?
Yeah,
Do you remember Wayne's World when you were a kid, or am I just that old?
No.
I remember Wayne's World.
I love Dana Carvey. I was just watching.
It's not. I'm sorry. It's not Wayne's World. It's
Bill and Ted's
Bill and
Excellent
Ted.
Adventure. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
the phone do.
I like Wayne's World. So
That was party on.
Right.
Nayo, how about you? Famous quote or a quote of any sort that inspires you or that makes you want to wake up in the morning and create something?
Do
You
you
guys
or
are
do you
really
not?
deep. I've been drinking for like 3 hours, so I'm like, what are you people talking about? Good
I don't
God.
think she knows. I don't think she knows she's on Facebook Live.
Beth, those are not the rules. You're supposed to wait until you log in to drink with us, not drink first and show up blasted call. That doesn't help.
It helps. I think it helps a lot. It makes it very entertaining.
It does.
Well,
It
she.
was just a benefit. Like I watched guys dancing in flapper dresses for the last hour and a half for veterans, so we're in really different places.
There you go. There you clearly, Beth.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Nayo, do you have a quote that you like?
I
Quote that you
do.
really-
It's
what is
do
it?
or do not. There is no try. Yoda.
Woo!
Do or do not. There is no try. Wow.
So I'm gonna comment on that. There's a book that I really like called Building a Story Brand.
I love
And
that
it's a great book, right?
book. Mhm.
And in the book, the author is a fan of Star Wars, a big fan of Star Wars. But the premise of the book is that as a consultant, as an advisor, as a service provider, whatever it is that you do, you gotta take the limelight away from you and shine it on your customer, and let the customer be the hero. Let the customer be Luke Skywalker, and you take the position of Yoda. What Yoda does and what Yoda did in the movie is to say the right things to inspire the person to take action. And as a service professional, if you're messaging what you do and how you change people's lives, et cetera, if it's more about what you do for the customer as their guide or advisor versus what you do as a great accountant, the messaging turns out to be better. So I just wanted to add on to that. I love Star Wars. I love Yoda. And I love Nayo.
Kyle loves Hector.
Are you one of those people that speak in third parties? Like you refer to yourself as a third party? No.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Nayo does not do that.
Pretty sure I got you on video doing that. I don't know though.
So who hasn't said a quote yet?
I think we've all had a quote, haven't we? Or wait,
Sean, I don't know if does Sean have a quote?
Yeah.
Matt, or, yeah.
Sean, did you have a quote?
It was use things, not people.
That's right. It was so memorable that we forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to.
Sorry.
I want to go back to what Hector said about people's hearts, and
I missed this part, so I really want.
This was really cool. As we were commenting on Andrew Wall, and we're kind of and he was commenting on about as people stay in your organization and become more senior, you really can't focus on behaviors. You got to capture their heart. And I agree. I completely agree. And so I saw a recent video on CNBC about the CEO of VMware. You guys know VMware is like this IT company, and this video was about churches, starting churches, and he's the CEO of VMware, and he calls himself the spiritual leader of the 20,000 or 30,000 employees at VMware. And that was a really, really interesting insight, because he recognized that as the leader of VMware, the people in his organization give the most of their lives to VMware. That's where their loyalties lie. Of all the things that they do in their lives, most of it is at work. And so he has really taken seriously to heart the caretaking of these people as for their holistic life, and what he called basically their spiritual leader. So that was a really interesting, as a respected CEO, to hear somebody say talk like that. That was really, really cool, interesting.
I think I haven't said a quote, so maybe I could say one. And we're all accountants here, so I like to get your thought about this. In the real world, debits do not equal credits. That's by Ron Baker, by the way. And I don't know who he took that from, if he took that from anyone. In the real world, debits don't equal credits. What do you think that means?
I guess it's all about assigning value.
You got more bills than money.
Lifestyle was fair.
You got more bills than money.
I think what that means is that as accountants, we are trained that for one person to win, the other person has to lose, right? That's what debit credit means. So when something goes up $100 on one side, it goes down by $100 on the other side. That's how we're trained, because that's how balanced equations in accounting work. But I think what he's talking about is the possibility for you to do a service for someone, or for you to be able to work with someone, and both of you win from a single transaction. Does that make sense? It's not a zero-sum game. It is possible in a transaction for both people to thank each other. And think about it. Have you ever had a customer that you charged not a lot, but you charged enough where you're like, damn, I charged well. They got their money's worth because I worked really hard, and I got what I wanted because I provided a lot of value. And they look at you in the eye and they say, thank you, like you saved my life. And then you turn back to them and say, well, thank you for being a great customer. If that ever happens, that is the proof that in the real world, debits don't equal credits. That means that you can have a win-win, and there's no such thing as zero-sum game, and there's no such thing. No one should have a scarcity mindset. So I wanted to kind of do a full circle on that.
I really like, I guess for me, for some reason, the idea of abundance and the versus scarcity is somewhat of a newer topic that I've been hearing lately. And I subscribe to it completely. I like the idea that we all know there's plenty of business for all of us out there, right? And I hope that we can help kind of change the mindset of some people that think it's all mine. If we work together, I mean, as accountants, we just, like this week, we met with a couple people, potential clients that were not good fits at all. So we handed them off to our neighbor. Like, why not, right? There's no reason for us to try to hoard it and not help that person, because the best win could possibly be we help connect them to somebody else and we both get positive out of it, or that person sends me somebody else instead. So I really like that concept.
And I think that's the main reason why people are so afraid to specialize, because they wanna take every single opportunity, because losing an opportunity means losing. Where we're not taking a client that is not the right fit and leaving that capacity open to bring in a better client that fits better, that you can provide more value to. It's actually a win. So that's one of the, I mean, all these concepts have really just changed my mindset around how I run my business. And I try not to run at full capacity. I'm always having at least 4 to 6 hours per week of doing nothing, just thinking basically. And it's hard, but
and that is that from midnight to 1 o'clock?
Yes, exactly. That's my thing.
Midnight to 1 o'clock, 4 days a week.
Yeah, correct.
And on Friday he's live.
But what ends up happening,
feeling at that, you think a lot during those hours. Trust me.
but what ends up happening is with that free capacity allows you to, when that customer comes in and says, I really, really need you to really, really do this, and I'm willing to pay for it. And I know some clients don't say it verbally, I'm willing to pay for it, but you can say, sure, I can prioritize, I can put you in front of the queue, and I'm just going to charge you a bit extra, but I'm going to deliver for you. And as long as you take, I think as long as you take out of your mindset that charging extra for being available for someone purposefully with that extra capacity just meant for you to serve them, it's a valuable thing. And I think the airlines do this. Airlines never, ever, ever sell 100%. Think about it. How many times you've been in an airplane and the captain says it's a full flight, and it's not a full flight. There's always like 6 or 7 seats open. If you think about it, how often does it happen? Oh, we have a full flight, and it's got, because those seats are available for the folks that will pay $3,000 because they have to fly in 3 hours because someone passed away and they have to go to a funeral, right? So think about it, or an important business meeting that if you don't go and show up and talk to your client, you lose the client, done. So you have to think about what amazing things you can do for people in need with that extra capacity. And I think you can charge a premium for it, and people will pay a premium for it. Do you want your dentist to be in full capacity, or the day that you're in agony because you have a cavity or whatever, you want to be able to say, hey dude, I got this problem. And he says, come right in, and you're willing to pay double or triple, to solve that problem. That excess capacity is your most valuable asset. And in some cases we're afraid to do it because not running at full capacity or not taking every opportunity feels like a loss. But you have to think as a capacity, as a potential gain. And you don't get them all the time, but when you do, it should make up for all the times that you didn't.
Hector, you actually had a video probably 3 or 4 months back, and I loved it. It was talking about calendarexia. Do you remember that?
What is it again?
Calendarexia.
Yes.
It literally, I watched it and it summed everything up. It takes time. Like for me, the best thing I can possibly have is large blocks of free time to do the things I need to do. And sometimes it becomes the things I need to do for a client. Sometimes it's the things I need to do for content creation, or sometimes it's the things I need to do for me. And the less I can actually have scheduled on my calendar, the happier I am at times. But
you have to be a creator. So that's an important concept, because not everybody feels that they're creators. So anyone that doesn't feel that they're a creator, by the way, anyone's a creator. Everyone's a creator, but everyone is a creator. But what I'm saying is, if people don't feel they're creators, then they feel that they're wasting time. So then they get the opposite effect, where they get anxious because they don't have something in the calendar. So you either have to identify yourself as a creator permanently. That way you can take advantage of that at that time, or you can feel that time is your open canvas to create. Andrew, were you going to say something?
Yeah. So I do have a question. Do you think that this that concept needs to flow down to your team as well? Do you think it's important to ensure that they have free capacity? Because this is as a business owner, is your job to make sure that they're fully utilized, or is your job to make sure that they have capacity to have free time to think?
It's a great question. And as of recently, the last 6 months, I finally was able to hire an office assistant. So immediately I would say I need that person to help free me up to be able to do those things, so I can try to do more. So I cannot pass it down yet, but I sure hope to.
Edgar, what do you think of this idea of like trying to free up time? Do you think?
Let me ask. Let me ask Tiffany. Do you have employees? Do you have team members? No. Michael does. Let me. I'll give you my thought on that because that actually made me think quite a bit. As a matter of fact, you kind of rattled my cage a little bit because I've selfishly thought that was the only creator in my office, and that rule only applied to me. But now I have to think about that too. I do invest. So I'll let Michael answer that question, but I do try to have at least a time and monetary budget, sort of like CPE, where I make sure that through the year I am being very intentional about where I'm sending my team members or where I'm allowing them to choose to go to for training. Whether it's QuickBooks Connect, like my whole team went to QuickBooks Connect, and it's a huge, investment, not just monetary, but it's also time away from the office. And the minute we get back, we have we have stress, for clients saying, where you guys been, for 4 days, so everything accumulates to that. And it was a big sacrifice, but I just strongly believe that what they take with them, it's what they take with them and what they can do with that information. It's more valuable over time, though. Only over time. It's very difficult for them for me to see immediate results straight from the QB Connect that I'm getting out of them. Like if you look at an ROI perspective, but Michael has more team members that I do, and I suspect they have more free time to do stuff. So Michael, I'm more curious to know what you think about that.
Well, I guess it sounds like there's like two different conversations there. One is, how much freedom do you give them to have the free space or thought to create? And then the other side is, how much do you as a owner invest in them for their own learning and development? So on the second one, I think it's important. It's an important part of running my firm. And so we actually make it a requirement that they do a specific amount of education per month. And that education could be anything. It doesn't have to be related to their job. It could be anything, as long as they meet those requirements, because we really want to cultivate people who are continually learning. It's a big, important piece. And then we do actually have a lot of creators in our office. So we encourage them to share what they're creating with each other. We got a lot of people who love essential oils and creating essential oils. And so we talk about that. It's kind of a joke because I'll say, hey, I got my essential oils, and I actually bought one just so that I could like participate and kind of joke about it. But I was like, I got my essential oils lavender smell going on in the office here. I know nothing about, the medical relevance of it. But so I think it's important. I think, as employees show that they can both become more efficient and effective at their jobs and are valuable to, I do think that they earn the right or the privilege of gaining more and more freedom. But if you have an environment where you're not really micromanaging them, frankly, they also are kind of self-imposing in their discipline or their schedule times to create and times to do things that they find enjoyable.
Yeah, but I guess ultimately the question I'm trying to get to here is your job as a business owner to make sure that they're at full capacity? Or I know when we talked and we had our interview about your firm of the future, you talked about the minute you hit 50% capacity, you hire so that you can bring back your free time so that you can work on the business. Is there a place in this world, and coming from my dad's old mentality where it was 10% non-chargeable, that was it. Anything more than 10% non-chargeable, you were going to be pulled into the office and you had to explain why you didn't have 10% non-chargeable. Is there a new era now where we're trying to have those Google days or whatever you want to call them, where they have complete blanket free time to create, to think, to become a better employee? Is there anyone out there who's doing anything like that? And what do you guys think about a model like that where you're literally scheduling free time?
It may seem silly, but remember, all creativity will take you by surprise, right? All new inventions will be a brand new thing that you didn't think about, and you have to be in this mentality of abstract thinking. in order to elevate yourself in a place where you can think about something you never thought before, or the marketplace hasn't thought before. So all these companies that break through and innovate, they cultivate this free time, this thinking time, because they do hire people that can actually create something with that. Now, I think the challenge may be that if we go back to the drawing board, or go back when we hired the team members that we hired, and the culture that the company had from the get-go, and the expectations that you had from them from the get-go, and you have inadvertently created robotic employees that you only deem as useful when they are at full capacity, or when they are keying stuff in, or you're hearing the beep from QuickBooks Desktop, you're like, oh, that person's working, that sort of thing. That's why I like QuickBooks Desktop, because I know when people are entering transactions. But if you have from the get-go created a culture where it's all about the 90%, the efficiency, just pushing data in, it's a hard transformation, because for people to go from there to, okay, now go think and create and come up with something, new ideas, that's very difficult. Now, in the other side of the coin, if you were starting a brand new business from scratch, and if I was starting a brand new business from scratch, I would hire people that are creative first and efficient second, because I do want to be disruptive and create something new for the marketplace. Unfortunately, I built my firm 10 years ago, and all the people that I have hired have bought into this quasi-efficiency culture. However, I let people watch YouTube videos. That's kind of a thing. It's difficult for me to say, don't watch YouTube videos when I'm a YouTube creator myself. So even if they're not
say, you better like mine first.
Right, of course. Watch mine, like it. But say, generally speaking, if there's an interesting video, either accounting related, not accounting related, life related, and they share it with each other, that's kind of okay in our office, just because it evokes a little bit of that creativeness aspect. But I don't have structured creative time. I haven't done that. I don't know how to do that. However, one thing that I'm a huge fan of, and that this is my commitment for 2019, it's gaming. I'm a big fan of board games myself personally, and I believe that there are games you can have with people that incentivize, like business lessons, right? So I'll give you an example. There was one game that just completely blew my mind, and it's hard. I'll try to describe it. I saw it in the Museum of Computer Science, and it was a game that it was supposed to teach you a lesson about programming. And basically, there's a wall between the two people. Imagine like a battleship game. There's a wall between the two, and then one person builds a shape out of like kids' toys. A rectangle, a triangle, a semicircle, that little thing that looks like a bridge. I don't know what it's called. Bigger triangles, smaller triangles. They're all wooden and color shape. Hopefully you can picture in your mind what it is. I have 4 kids, so it is forever ingrained in my head. But so you build a shape, an abstract shape, and then the person on the other side has the same exact components. And then you're supposed to describe to the person what you built. So you have to say, first start with the rect triangle and put it in the middle, then put the rectangle and put it to the right, and then balance the yellow triangle between piece A and piece B. The other person can't answer anything, but is supposed to build the piece strictly on your direction. And then you have maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes to do it. And then at the way you get to see what the other person built, and you notice that there are differences. And sometimes, and it's very interesting because we recorded it and we went back and figured out what went wrong. So we go back and go, look, dude, you didn't specify left or right. You didn't specify yellow or red. You said the middle, but the middle means different things to different people. So it was a really good lesson on just communication and giving instructions. And sometimes what you think was accurate instruction giving, the other person didn't receive it the same way. So I'm actually a bigger fan of that type of learning, just because it's the only one that resonates with me as a big board game fan. So I will probably be implementing that in my office soon. But I yet to know how to implement this, free creative time. But I'll probably do more of that sort of, and it helps for team building as well. So I don't know if you guys play any games like that, but we have 2 new people that jumped in, Jacob and Sarah. But before we let them in, Sean has been very quiet. He's very good at being mute. That's his superpower. Sean, you want to jump in and say something?
I think this is extremely interesting for myself. We have 3 3 subcontractors that we work with, so we're not at the employee stage yet, but it's something I'm really looking forward to. And speaking about culture and all that really gets to me. Something that my business partner has been harassing me about is he says, hey, how do you feel about maybe offering unlimited vacation? And I know I'm kind of digressing from the conversation, but it's also kind of in the sphere of, this free time. And
it's relevant. It's very relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, somewhat relevant. And when he first told me, I'm like, yeah, you're kidding me. And I hung up the phone on him. And then I've been thinking about it more and more. I've been reading more and more about it. And it's kind of tied into the conversation tonight. So I don't know if anybody has some thoughts on that or how they feel about it or.
I thought if you have the right people, it can work. But I think that there's a lot of people who will take advantage of that.
No, and actually, the studies show. I think I've shared this before. But, the studies show that it's actually advantageous to do it that way for the employer, actually not for the employee. The average employee takes, I think it's less than 2 weeks a year. It's like 1.8 weeks a year of vacation. And unlimited PTO does not require you to accrue anything on your balance sheet, so it makes your financials look stronger from a GAAP perspective. But there are some of my thoughts. And then when somebody leaves, you don't have to pay out any PTO because there's nothing to accrue.
Well, so there's some labor standards that you need to adhere to, right?
So
this
labor standards.
Yeah, there's no labor standards here in the U.S.
Oh, okay, so
that's Canada versus the U.S. Yeah.
Yeah, we're super strict. So there's labor standards on that.
California's pretty strict.
So what labor standards would be affected by?
Well, I mean, Michael says that on average, he finds that, or they've heard that 1.8 weeks are taken, whereas legally in Canada, it's a minimum 2 week, right? And then after 5 years, it's 3 weeks. And after
3 weeks now, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be very careful that they actually are taking it.
But Sean is introducing
around length of time of day that they're working and all that other stuff, and it all depends on the province that you're in.
But Sean is introducing the other side of the coin. He's not saying, he's talking about unlimited, not minimum.
No, I understand that, but just as what Michael was saying, that it's generally only 1.8 is taken. It's legally required that they must take a minimum of 2 weeks. So you have to be careful that they actually are taking it.
Yeah, and it's not really required that they take it. You just, if they don't take it, you got to pay them for
it. Check the labor board.
Legally required for people to take lunch breaks, right?
Let's have a legal chat on Thursday. How about that?
We'll make the second Tuesday of next week.
Let's make Friday the inspirational one. I won't do Thursdays for legal discussions. Nayo, Jacob, or Sarah, you want to jump in? So comment anything we said, or change topic and talk about a quote that inspires you that you like. So Jacob, you must unmute yourself, or maybe I'll have to unmute you. So Jacob's going to start.
I didn't think I could unmute myself, so that's why I was leaving that to you. I had a thought on something you were talking about earlier, where you were wanting to give your employees time to generate ideas. But you also touched on a certain point of, it's to generate good ideas, you have to get in the habit of generating good ideas. And you have to get into the habit, well, you're not getting in the habit of generating good ideas. You just have to get in the habit of generating ideas. And I recently read a book, and the guy came up with a process, and every day he would come up with 10 ideas. So he would pick a different topic, like today might be 10 blog posts I could write. Tomorrow might be 10 businesses I could start. 10 ways Amazon could change. But what it forced him to do was really start thinking through that, because when you pick a topic, anytime like 6, 7 is pretty easy. 8, 9, 10 is getting a lot harder. And it makes you truly start exercising the idea part of your brain, which is a muscle just like any other. So the more often you do it, the quicker then and easier ideas come. So I think it is important to schedule that time repeatedly, and for your staff to do that if you're wanting to get them to start generating good ideas. If you walk in a room and say, I want ideas out of the blue, many times you're not going to get great ideas because they're like just trying to come up with something, right? Instead of being in the habit of coming up with ideas. Now, when you do that and you're going to create 360 days worth of ideas. So you're going to create 3,600 ideas. You may only get in a year 10, 15 good ideas, right? But if you continually do it, you produce enough of them and you'll get something good out of it.
It's good exercise. Yeah. Sarah, want to jump in? Want to jump into that one?
That's an interesting one. I like it.
And before Sarah jumps in, I think Jacob still owes me at least 5 or 6 more top 10 technology trends from our last conversation, right, Jacob?
Andrew, I'm going to write an article next month on it for you.
Hold on, conversion rate, he was fine. Conversion rate, he was totally fine.
I am writing an article. I committed to that for somebody else.
Nobody's hijacking this conversation, guys. I'm going to mute you. Okay. Sarah, go ahead.
I'm listening to you guys.
Sarah, maybe I'll evoke some thought. What's the worst idea you ever had?
Oh, holy hell. Not leaving my job fast enough.
Okay. That's one of those that's one of those interview questions where you say something that's actually meant to say the different, right? So it was a bad idea, but absolutely right.
No, yeah, I mean, but I put my quote in the chat, and mostly it's kind of like the way I like to lead and the way that I like to embrace the things that I do is with a lot of integrity and empathy and understanding and just.
I didn't read the quote. Can you read it?
Oh, yeah. Let me do it. For beautiful eyes, look for the good in others. For beautiful lips, speak only words of kindness. And for pose, walk in the knowledge that you are never alone. So I just
Audrey Hepburn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I read it.
There you go.
I wanted to make you think that I knew, Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, I was gonna say.
So, Nayo, you want to jump in since you've been quiet?
I don't have anything to add to that. I don't have any employees. I do like the unlimited vacation time idea. I will say, if that had been offered to me when I was an employee, the max vacation I probably would have taken would have been 3 weeks, which was offered to me only because I do feel like you do need time away from the office. But at the same time, I don't want anybody to think that I'm a vacation hog and that I'm not serious about my job. So that's an interesting concept that probably nobody will really utilize. And if they do, they probably will get fired because they're underperforming anyway.
Yeah, that makes me think. So first of all, some of my team members may be listening. So I'm not ready to commit to unlimited vacations. Let me make that public. But I do think there's an interesting thing to think about this, and I draw this analogy, right? If you give $10 to a friend and you never see them again because they don't want to pay you, that was the best $10 you ever spent, right? So that's the same concept. That's the same concept as if you have an employee that abuses the vacation and it doesn't come back and give you the production you want, they're self-selecting themselves out of the culture, and they're probably doing you a favor because whatever it costs you to give them a 5-week vacation, it's probably less than the huge monumental mistake they were going to make later on because they weren't a good culture fit, or they were going to leave and steal your clients or try to steal your clients anyway and do it even worse. So sometimes when you give, and I think a lot of people say you can't give your employees too much because then they'll take advantage. But sometimes taking advantage is a good indication that again, sometimes it's good to lose small early and to know who you're dealing with than to lose big later on. And anyone here that's ever had employees knows that I prefer to have my superstar employee take 6-week vacations than me going to every 3 years and try to retrain my superstar employee again. And then you kind of have to think about it this way. But you need to have a culture, or as results oriented, you have to have a culture that knows and understands what a happy client is, what a profitable business is, and they can take 6-week vacations or go home early or whatever happens to be, but they have to produce the results. And I think that's the hardest thing as a leader, to figure out how to balance the two. And that's the reason why I'm not ready to give unlimited vacations, just because I don't know how to set the results-oriented culture yet. Although I think the people that work in my team are amazing people, and they wouldn't abuse it anyway. Most of the team members in my office, they're supposed to leave at 5. And in some cases, they work until 7 or 8 because they have to finish a project. And no one ever asked them to do it. They do it on their own accord. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes they'll leave early. You know, we try to have a calendar just so we can have phone coverage, because God knows how often the phone rings in my office and someone needs to answer the damn thing. I'm done with answering the phone. I put in my hours already, you know, but so I need my team members, one person to be there answering the phone. But generally speaking, I'm okay with them leaving early if they finish their work, or for them to leave late if they want to work a little bit extra. I think that extends a little bit into the unlimited vacations. And I think that the unlimited vacations that Sean posted is actually an extremely, probably is the extreme end of the benefit to having this business. So I would propose to anyone that's thinking that this is a ridiculous idea, think about it this way. If it was a rule that in order for you to do business in the States or Canada, that you give unlimited vacations, how would you design a business around that? You know, and somebody proposed, and I just made that up just now, but what I had read someone say something different that said, imagine that it was illegal for you to charge for your services to your clients. Think about it this way. Imagine if it was illegal for you to charge your service to your clients, but you love accounting, how would you redesign your business around that? So that mind exercise makes you think outside the box in terms of, well, then maybe you have to get sponsors, or maybe you have to sell books, or maybe if you think about it, you know, you love doing accounting, you love serving your clients, but it's illegal to charge for it. How would you redesign your business around that? I think that you can use the same logic for the unlimited vacations.
I've actually considered Fridays, all Fridays off, or pick one day a week and only have to work 4 days, and just go to a 4-day work week, so that everybody can have a 3-day weekend, or basically a third day off, and see if people like that, because most people's productivity, like what they've measured productivity of people, and it ends. Most people only have about 30 hours a week of productivity in a 40-hour work week, and so I've thought about that. But it sounds like a great idea to me.
I've heard that people do that in the summertime, so you would be considering doing that all year.
Yeah, I'd consider it all year. Yeah.
Well, Michael doesn't do taxes, so you don't really have a tax season, right?
Yeah, exactly. No tax season. Yeah.
Because Jacob says we do that off tax season. Jacob says you leave Friday at 12 or something like that on non-tax season. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see who's being quiet. Tiffany or Matt. Surprisingly, Matt. Tiffany or Matt want to chime in? Maybe do another quote. It's been an hour, by the way. So if we get the majority to call it quits, then we can end it. But
yeah, actually, something that's been weighing on me lately is I saw that you had made a quote or a post about calling our clients customers rather than clients.
Let's discuss that. Discuss that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So you like it? See,
I really do. I think it makes complete sense, and I've actually slowly been integrating customers into my sentence as opposed to clients. I did it today with Michael, actually, on our interview.
Elaborate, Sean. Tell us your thought process. Why? Because I know I want at least one person to like completely be against it and say, no way, I will never call my customers. I will call them clients. So Tiffany says, I will never call them customers. They're my clients, damn it. And that's it. But Sean, sell it to her.
What I love the most about it was you never, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something along the lines of you never stop working for your customer and trying to win him over, right? Where I feel the word client is more, well, he's mine now, or she's mine now. I'll serve him, I'll serve her whenever they're paying, value pricing. I'm good with that. He's my I don't need to prove to that person anymore that he or she is worth my time. I just feel like customer service was, you're always trying to win over, hearts again, right? Not just minds. So that's what I like the most about that.
So this comes from Ed Kless, who's Ron Baker's co-host in The Soul of Enterprise, which, by the way, all 9 of you should be listening to that podcast. That's, in my opinion, best podcast for anyone that wants to be mentally stimulated about the practice and business and disruption and value pricing and all that stuff. But Ed Kless's logic in this is that the word client, because it means relationship, right? It means professional relationship. Most of us would agree, yeah, I'm a professional, they're my client. You know, they use that in court when they talk about the attorney and the client. I mean, it's the terminology is used to depict a professional relationship, right? The challenge with client is that in our industry, in the legal industry, we have very little turnover of customers, right? We have long-term relationships. And the word client comes with it, the notion that the customers are long-term, and we tend to take that for granted. Where you think about I know, Tiffany, you can shake your head. This is not about who's right and who's wrong. This is just the idea. But if you think of a supermarket, or you think of a Best Buy, or what is Canada's Best Buy? Henry's,
Walmart.
Or Harry's? Yeah, whatever, Walmart. You think about any of those things, the store needs to win the customer over and over and over on every transaction. And that mindset that you can lose a customer at any time because customers only have loyalty to the store that charges cheapest, will make you think about building loyalty and building a connection and wowing the client at every the customer at every interaction. So it's not so much in terms of what word you use with your customer. So you can still call your customer client, so they feel that they have that professional relationship, but you in your mind call them customer. So you think like a retail store where you have to win and wow the client over at every interaction. So that was the mindset and the process. I think that's the way he's trying to sell you on that idea.
I'm going with Tiffany on this one.
Yeah. So I'm not selling you on me. Yeah. No.
Well, I think Brad also had it.
I mean, I have my own mind, and I know what I need to do with my clients. I'm not Walmart. I lived the retail age. I know what retail is all about. Those are not my customers, though. They're not. For me, it's a different level of relationship as a client rather than a customer. And I have more respect for the people that I work with, and I call them my clients rather than a Walmart customer. Never going to sway me on it.
Right.
I've had experience.
You don't have to be. You don't have to be convinced. I think Matthew.
I still have the mindset that they're a customer, but I don't need to call them and degrade the name of the relationship in order to service them properly.
It's the ownership of the relationship that's in question. And the challenge comes from client versus customer in a sense of who is assisting who. I mean, in a perfect world, great, we'd meet in the middle to it. But I think we've all could agree we've had an experience where we've had a certain client, i.e. customer, whichever way you want to say it, that tried their best to take advantage of pricing, time, energy, whatever. I guess maybe mine was just more recent, and I still feel the pain of lack of appreciation for the time, energy, and effort spent, because whether it's a client or customer, that level of customer service always comes from me. Always. I mean, I fundamentally believe that customer service is the only thing that sets us apart. So if I do a good job, they will always be my client.
Can I read? I'm going to read what he wrote verbatim. And then, I'm not trying to sway you, Tiffany. I'm trying to do a better job at presenting the idea. And I don't, but by the way, I'm agnostic to it right now. Not that I feel one way or the other. I haven't retrained my brain to use it, and I use them interchangeably. But this is how he writes it. He says, in ancient Rome, the lawyers of the day functioned as public servants and were not paid for their work. Instead, they were appointed to their duties in working with their clients. The relationship was not one of equal status, and it implied a sense of duty and obligation to serve the great unwashed. The word still has its connotation in the context of social workers and their clients. We prefer to use the word customer as it is derived from the fact that it is a custom for people to frequent a particular place of business. So that's the argument, and that's the idea. So we don't have to fight about this, guys. I think it was pretty radical to say it, and Ron Baker is a provocateur and a thought leader because he's willing to say things like this. So
what about the word staff?
So Sean likes.
Who cares what you call them? It's how you treat them.
Sure. I think that's right. Doesn't matter how you call them, it's how you treat them. It's the premise behind it is that transformation starts with language. And if you're trying to instill the type of discipline in your team or yourself, that changing the words that you use or the way you communicate with your brain can catapult change much faster through language. So,
well, do you know that all clients call their accountants or bookkeepers their CPAs?
That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, so I don't feel like one way or the other, if we call them clients or customers, are we going to treat them any differently? I think how you treat your clients or your customers is an internal thing. So you decide how you want to treat them, you decide how you want to interact, you decide what level of service you want to provide them. Whether you call them clients or customers, I don't think it diminishes them in any kind of way. I don't know. Even when I write, I go back and forth with client or customer. I think customer sounds a little more friendlier than client. Client is a little stiff to me in terms of just the language. Like you said, clients, you think about lawyers serving their clients. It does sound very formal. Customer does sound a little more friendlier, but I don't think it matters one way or the other. Just like all accountants are not CPAs.
But language matters. I mean, the precision on language matters. It matters a lot.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters to the customer or the client.
I know. I think the opposite. I think it does matter. I think in this particular case, what they're called may not be of great importance, but as an accounting professional, you would appreciate how misquoting or misleading one word in the middle of your conversation will cause the entire relationship or engagement to go awry because you use that one word that you should have used a different word because their perception of the meaning of that word completely changed the context of how they understood their relationship was.
But I mean, how many people do you think actually know the history and the definition of that you just gave us? So yes, you gave us a great background on where the terminology client comes from, where the customer terminology customer. I personally didn't know that background before you just educated me today. And I guarantee you, my customers / clients don't have that knowledge of that background. And my staff certainly don't have that knowledge in that background. I mean, maybe if you're going to the point of trying to make an example to try and illustrate a point, it's useful. But on a day-to-day basis, whether you call them customer or you call them client, I don't think it ultimately matters. And I think that sometimes we get caught up in these minute details that just don't matter. You know what I mean? And it's just, an opinion. And I get where you're coming from. You're saying like language is critical. And I think language is important because, if you use an is instead of an isn't, it makes a big fundamental difference in what the message is you're trying to construe. But when people don't really natively understand the difference between customer and client, that is a nuance that's unimportant.
Moving on from go ahead, whoever was.
You take that a step further, is client or customer, either one of them, the right word? Especially when you move into advisory and truly helping companies grow, you almost, they like almost to hear you refer to it as you're becoming a partner with them and helping them partner with their growth. Now you have to be careful in that in certain clients because they will take advantage of that. But with the right clients, it actually becomes more impactful because they listen to you better because they feel like you have their best interest in mind. Now, I'm not saying that's the correct term all across the board at all, but what I think it comes down to is because as we're saying, I don't know if the term matters as much as how you act and how they feel you perform. There's pluses and minuses to all those terms, right? So it may be that depending on your relationship with what you want your relationships to be with certain people is how you should define it on the front end with your words.
Yeah, but let me throw a different word out there, and this is what I call the mother of all words. I think this one word has the capacity to make and break anything. Let's build some more suspense to that. It is the one word I've struggled to learn how to use properly.
You got to give it a little bit of A-Rod suspense. You got to pause.
Yeah, pause. It is the most difficult word to use. The one day that I used it. No, so the word is unlimited. And when you think about that word means so many things to so many different people. So to say someone you have unlimited access to me, or you can call me unlimited times, or we'll talk to you unlimited number of ways. You can send me an unlimited amount of emails, unlimited anytime minutes on your cell phone plan, unlimited internet, which is not real, by the way, because I get charged by Comcast internet overage for my unlimited internet access, which is one of the things that just blows my mind, so the word unlimited has the power. Just think about, and I may sound repetitive, I may say this a lot of times, we all had cell phones like 9 years ago, right? Where unlimited plan wasn't a thing. Like only people that could pay, only like rich people would have an unlimited plan. We normally had 1,000 minutes or 3,000 minutes, and we're always counting our minutes. And there's afternoon minutes, there's nights and weekend minutes, there's within network minutes. Imagine how the whole cell phone world worked with all this minutes craziness. All of a sudden, BlackBerry came in with easy texting, and iPhone came in, and people stopped talking to each other, and they just started chatting. And all of a sudden, minutes didn't matter anymore. So now all the cell phone companies were now advertising unlimited because the numerical value wasn't even a thing that people saw as valuable. People only saw valuable unlimited. And even people that were using 500 minutes or 400 minutes, because you can argue that now you use a lot less minutes than 8, 9, 10 years ago, they would prefer to go to an unlimited plan, even if it's more expensive, even if they would never use it, because unlimited gives you that peace of mind that you're not going to nickel and dime me, or you're not going to charge me by the line, which is one of the very interesting concepts even that comes along even with value pricing, where most of the times when you want to do value pricing, you never itemize, or you try not to itemize, and you try to have this concept of a limited built in somewhere. Matthew, you want to say something?
Oh, yeah. This just totally brought something up. Jacob, we got to think about international data plans going to Canada.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Sorry.
Except when you come up here, you get free Wi-Fi.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. And most cell phone companies, if you tell them you're going overseas, they can add it for you, and you may only pay a fraction of a cent of your unlimited.
We're just going over an invisible line.
Right.
Yeah, but it's an invisible line that allows them to charge you triple.
Right. But Hector, you mentioned the whole unlimited thing. I still have all my old cell phones. I was on Sprint Spectrum, 300 minutes, but after 9 p.m., the minutes were unlimited. So I would save all my phone calls for after 9 p.m.
Think about when we go to conferences and you have an open bar. All of you drink more than normal when there's an open bar. Yes or no?
No, I'm the non-drinker on the call.
Okay. But
right, Andrew?
Yeah.
We're just trying to balance you out. So thank you for that.
No, but there is something about the word unlimited and how it changes the entire context of anything you're talking about. Free refills. Like if I remember when I used to go to the mall and eat at the food court, that's before my stomach, was able to handle food court food. But I remember, as a kid, when I went to the food court, I ended up eating at the one place that had the free refills with the soda outside, because most of the malls, at least in South Florida, the sodas were behind the counter, but Subway was always in front of the counter. And I hated Subway, but I ended up eating at Subway because I had the free refills on the soda. Because there's something in the psyche where you have unlimited access to stuff, where even though you know you're not going to use it, and logically, historically, you've never used more than X dollar amount, just having it gives you tons of peace of mind. And that to me, like, think about Amazon Prime. Who's got Amazon Prime here? Okay. Well, I think I take advantage of it. Like, I think I actually order more and get more free shipping than the monetary value of the $120 a month. But there's hundreds, if not millions, of people that have Amazon Prime that that get 3 things a year. But the reason why they pay for it is the mindset and just the thought process that you can get unlimited of it. And I think that word changes the psyche of a lot of folks. Yes, Andrew.
So one of the other things I think that unlimited changes the psyche in many different ways. It also makes you use more of something that you would ordinarily use of it because it's quote unquote unlimited. I've fallen guilty to this myself, where, you know, I'll get a pass for something like, let's say, perfect example, we have an amusement park in Canada called Canada's Wonderland, and you can buy a pass that includes food with your pass. So when I go now, I'm like, I gotta get my food because it's included. So now I got, even whether I'm hungry or not, I gotta go out and get my food because it's now included and it's unlimited. So I gotta go and eat. And I think that unlimited can be a very dangerous word because it can force people to over consume whatever it is just because it's quote unquote unlimited.
Yeah, that happens to be in all you can eat restaurants all the time.
You walk away full.
I walk away like I can't breathe, guys.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
Because you know what? Something in my mind says, "Oh, you're gonna charge me $50 for all you can eat meat at the Rodizio
I'm gonna get my money's worth.
I'm gonna not only am I gonna get my money's worth, I'm gonna borderline die at your place to teach you a lesson on economics."
I'm so the opposite though. I will when it comes to unlimited, I am not pressed. I will be the person in the buffet where I'm like, I want to order something off the menu. I don't need unlimited. I hate unlimited. I do feel like it makes people gluttonous. Like you mentioned the whole restaurant thing. I hate going to all you can eat buffets just because I sit and watch people eat until they're sick. It's like, this is not the only time you are going to eat ever in your life. I get that you want to get your money's worth, but it's like, really, do you have to? So
I eat until the waitress comes and says, "You have to leave. This is too much." Like, what are you feeding, a seal under there? Go now.
It's like
but you mentioned Amazon Prime too. I have made sure, because I paid that $99 or $119, whatever it is now. I make sure now I do order more stuff on Amazon since I'm paying for it instead of going to the store, even though the Walmart is 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
So Sarah was going to say something.
Oh, it's the positive and negative of abundance. Like, it depends on how you look at it, and it's thought provoking for sure. Unlimited. And if you gorge yourself.
So just a thought, the reason why I have a mindset of abundance is because I like all you can eat restaurants. And I like you guys ever been to Vegas? There's in the Caesars, there's a really awesome all-you-can-eat buffet where they have crab legs. And I got to tell you, I've ate enough crab legs to basically set me up for the next 5 years until I go to Vegas again. So I don't need to eat crab legs. I still got 2 years left worth of crab legs in my body. But the unlimited access is something that I'm always afraid of. I try to give people some sort of unlimited something. But the hardest thing for me to say, it's you can call me unlimited amount of times and pick my brain unlimited amount of ways, because I particularly consider myself a very resourceful person, and my customers do that as well. So if I were to offer something like that, I think that they may exploit, the picking my brain thing. So that becomes, so I guess I have the capacity to give a lot to my clients. So I'm afraid that I just will have a capacity problem by offering unlimited. So that's my biggest fear is offering unlimited of anything. And anyone.
Do they not realize they can just wait till midnight on Fridays and dial into live and pick your brain?
That's true. That's true. Don't give it away, man. Don't give it away. All right. Who else wants to chime in? You want to use that? You want to talk about a different quote? Maybe do one last quote. It's been like an hour and a half. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We have unlimited time to do this until all 9 of us fall asleep. So
I do not have unlimited time to do this. I need to take my little butt to sleep.
Where's home for you?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland.
So
And
real
Sarah?
quickly, everybody do a shout out. Where's home? Hector. I know, but
I'm in the suburbs of
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale, but I say Miami because it's easier to explain.
Hi, I'm going to be in Miami in December.
Yeah, call me.
I don't know.
What should she call you?
Jesus.
Jeez.
Wow. How about I'll make you my client? How about that?
I know you're a customer.
Yeah,
And I'll
right.
meet you at Walmart.
Exactly.
and
I'm
that
going
is
on
where
a
I like
cruise.
Well, by the way, Tiffany, thank you for that. I told Andrew a couple of days ago. I said I just had a big lesson in humility, and he said, "Why is that?" Well, I just came back from QB Connect, where like a lot of people want to take selfies with me, and then 3 days later, I went to the North Carolina 79th annual CPA symposium, and like literally one person gave me one of their dirty plates to put away.
That's a lie. You know that's a lie.
That was the contrast of so I said, oh wow. No, because I was in the middle of the class and I said, anybody ever watch any of my YouTube videos? And people were like, huh? You know, I said,
It
oh,
was like
crap.
crickets in the room.
You know, it was. And again, look, I'm just a person like everyone else, but the problem is that QB Connect spoiled me. So
Tax people are different than bookkeeping people.
that's true. And these are all CPAs, by the way, all CPAs.
Yeah, they're a whole different breed.
Yeah, but we're CPAs too now.
In
I know,
Greensboro,
but it's when
Greensboro, North Carolina.
Tax-only conferences are a whole different ball game than people who do taxes and accounting, or taxes and bookkeeping, or just bookkeeping.
Or
I don't know
CPA.
why. Tax
Because they're
people,
old, boring white men.
right? Because it's not just CPAs. Enrolled agents are the same exact way. It's like, do you guys not have a personality? Like, I just don't get that. That is the weirdest thing to me.
You know, Tiffany, there actually was a lot of women. It wasn't predominantly male, which in Florida it actually is the case. But there was a lot of gray hair for sure. I mean, it was the median age must have been mid-60s. Nothing wrong with that, but I think it's just I think that probably the younger CPAs get their CPEs online, probably. So the ones that actually make it to these like big conventions, and this was in a beautiful, like an old school cabin style hotel in this PGA golf course. I mean, the property was beautiful.
And how much was it? How much was a ticket to attend?
That's why, because the younger ones can't afford it yet.
Yeah, 700 was a ticket to attend. It wasn't that expensive. Plus,
that's actually cheap.
Yeah, but plus you have to pay for your own hotel if you want to. But the food was, I was like, oh man, I miss QB Connect.
That was unlimited.
Yeah. It was unlimited grade, customer grade.
Yeah, that is the one thing about QB Connect I miss. Every year, the day after, I'm like, nobody's feeding me breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
I mean, even the donut table at QB Connect.
Oh, that donut table was insane.
Always amazing. I still have
first world problems, guys.
Yeah, it is a first world problem. All right,
I just feel bad for anybody who came up behind me that wanted pineapple, because I was like, pineapple? I'm taking all of it. I don't care. I loved it.
See, I was like that with the donut table. I took the entire table.
I'm a papaya guy, by the way. So if there's papaya anywhere, I will eat all the papaya. I'm a papaya guy.
I'm a passion fruit guy. If I find passion fruit, that shit's the bomb.
Yeah. So anyway, who wants to take it home? Say the last quote and not comment. Just say the last quote and not comment and wrap it up. What do you guys think?
Can't is a 4-letter word.
All right, guys. Should we wrap it up? Should we?
It's embarrassing.
Okay, so we want to make this. Don't want to be anticlimactic. We want to end it there. You want to keep going? Raise your hand if you want to end it, or.
I think Jacob has something in him.
Nope, I'm thinking I'm ready for bed. So.
I gotta go finish.
I still got a half a bottle of rye. Half a battle.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Kent is a
Good
format.
talking with you guys.
Have a good night.
You too.